10, 12. Okay. I don't have the face. I don't have the video. Okay, type your name. You can type. Alright. Type your name and donate. 39 students. Okay, good morning everyone. Please type your name and your room number. So we have 41 students already. Okay. Room 7, room 2, room 1, room 8, room 6. We have 45 students. 47. 49. 'Okay, let's just wait for the other students to join and type their names and room number. It's 49. Okay, so I guess I will start already because it's 10:15. So good morning everyone. Welcome again to Social Studies Online Learning. So this is Studies M.6. Okay, so just to remind everyone again, unnecessary messages is not allowed. Do not send any messages that is not related to our lesson. Okay, so just send messages if I ask you to send a message or if I ask a question that you need to answer. Okay, so let's start by reviewing the lesson that I've discussed to you last Friday. So last Friday, we identified the classifications of historical events as well as we differentiate the 4 classifications of historical events, and lastly, we identify the historical evidences and the historical methods. So now I have a question. If you can still remember or recall, what are the classification of historical events that I've discussed to you last Friday? Okay, so you can type your answer now on the chat box. What are those 4 classification of historical events that I've discussed to you? So I'll just wait for your answer. If you can still recall, what are those classification? So I've discussed 4. You submitted your work, and it's about the classification of historical events. Anyone who can answer me? What are those 4? No answer? Okay, so I've discussed to you last time the four classifications of historical events. So we have the world history, national history, regional history, and the local history. And I ask you to give examples about each classification of historical events. And after this one, we discuss also the historical evidences. And we have three sources of evidence. So what are those three sources of evidence that I've discussed to you last time? So we even have a game last time that you are going to identify the features, right? So what are those three sources of evidence that I've discussed to you? Anyone who can answer? Some students are still typing their names. Okay, anyone who can answer, what are the three sources of evidence? This is just a review. I believe that you take down notes the lesson last time. No answer. Okay, we have an answer from Budinchai. He answered primary source. Okay, what else? We have three. Okay, from Amon 1 of room 4. So the three sources of evidence according to her is primary sources, secondary sources. How about the third one? So these two, primary sources and secondary sources, are the basic sources of evidence or informations. Okay, thank you Amon 1 and Budinchai for your participation. So we have three sources of evidence: the primary source, the secondary source, and another answer from Amon 1, we have oral tradition or the oral history. Okay, so these are the three sources of evidence that was discussed to you last time. Okay, so now I have here pictures. Let's try to identify if you can still recall the answers that you've got last time. So what type of source is this one that you can see on the picture? What type of source is this? A primary, secondary, or an oral tradition? Now we have another answer from Sirapop of room 4. Number 1 is the original, 2 second sources, and 3 primary source. What is the type of source of this one on the picture that you can see? Okay, we have answer from Puza. So this one is primary source because this one is a letter. Okay, another answer from Budinchai. Okay, let's have the next picture. What type of source is this? So these are historical books. Where does the historical books belong? Primary, secondary, or the oral tradition or the oral history? Any answer? so this one, historical books or history books are considered as secondary source, okay, from number 10 of room 1. Another answer from Maitini, secondary source. Okay, so these books, historical books are secondary source. How about this one? References and bibliography. What type of source is this? Source. So we have a lot of answers coming from room 3, room 7, room 4, and from Puwanat. What room are you? Okay, next we have voice recording. What type of source is this? Primary, secondary, or oral? Voice recording. Okay, voice recording is a primary from Puzak. Who's Puzak? What room are you? Room 3. Okay, voice recording primary from room 4, room 1. Same answer from room 7 and room 8. Okay, so voice recording. Okay, just send your answers. Don't worry, everything will be recorded. Okay, I'm taking down notes, all your answers, and I'm giving points to those students who are participating. So artifacts is a primary source because these are remains from the people in the past. Next we have magazines. What type of source is magazine? Magazine is okay, so I guess that's the last one. And then after we discuss the historical evidences, we move on to the historical methods. And I presented to you the 3 basic steps in historical method. So what are those basic steps in historical method? So of course, there are lots of methods that historians use, but this one, I make it simple so that you could easily understand. So we have answer from room 1, number 10. The 3 steps in historical method are the collection of data, criticism of data, and presentation of facts in readable form. Okay, the same answer coming from Amun 1. So I believe you've taken down notes because you could easily answer and type all your answers. Okay, the same answer from Bantita. Okay, so the 3 steps are the collection of data, criticism of data, and the presentation of facts in readable form. Okay, so those are the topics discussed to you last Friday. So for today, we're going to move on with our lesson 3, and we're going to discuss about the prehistorical ages. So this topic is already in Unit 2. So this is the start of Unit 2. So what are the periods in the prehistorical age? So we have the Paleolithic age or the Old Stone Age, the Mesolithic Age or the Middle Stone Age, the Neolithic Age or the New Stone Age, and the Metal Age or the Iron and Bronze Age. But for today, we're only going to discuss first the Paleolithic Age or the Old Stone Age. Okay, so I have here a video, but I don't know if it will play. So I will give it a try, but if it will not play, we're going to use the link of the video, and I guess you can watch it by yourself in your computers or in your phone if the video will not play. Okay, so let's give it a try if it will play and if there is a sound or a voice.
Learn.
5 things you should know about the Paleolithic.
And if the video will be blocked, we're going to use another
The Paleolithic
link
is the
to
first
watch
period
the
of
video.
prehistory. It's also the longest period of time in history. It begins with the appearance of human beings around 300,000 years ago in Africa. Paleolithic means old stone, and this explains the appearance of the first stone tools. During Paleolithic times, humans lived in tribes, small settlements of 20 or 30 people, dwelling huts or natural caves. They were nomads, meaning they didn't settle in the same place. They traveled from one area to another looking for a location to fish, hunt, or collect food. In other words, they were hunters and collectors. Among their favorite foods were wild berries,
Okay, can
deer,
anyone type
bisons, or even
yes
mammoths.
if you can
During
hear
Paleolithic
the sound
times,
of the video?
people held rituals to worship nature and ask for
Can you
food
hear the
abundance.
sound of the video?
That's right, they prayed to the sun and the rain.
Please type yes.
Another interesting aspect of their culture is that they buried their dead performing funeral rituals. Wow, it sounds like the earliest evidence of spiritual beliefs.
I guess there is.
Fire was discovered in
Okay, so
Paleolithic
Master said
times.
the video is
No, that's not what I
we're
meant.
going to
It seems that the lightning from a
play it
thunderstorm accidentally started the first
Before
fire.
we play again
Later
the
on,
video,
men learned to
I
make
want
fire
you
in 2
to,
different ways, rubbing a stick
take
against a
down
tree
most
trunk
important informations about
or
the
2
video,
stones together.
and then
Fire was
please
very
pay
important
attention to
because
all
it
the
kept the people in the
informations,
tribe
because later
warm
on,
during the
I'm
night
going to
or in the
ask
winter
questions.
time. Also,
Each
thanks to the
question
discovery
I
of fire,
will be,
they could now cook
going
their
to
food
read
and
5
enjoy eating
students'
tastier
answer,
things.
And we will move to the next question. Okay, so the question comes from the
Art
video
in
that we're
Paleolithic
going
times
to
began
watch.
35,000
So this
years
video
ago.
is all
I'm sure
about
you'll probably be wondering,
Paleolithic
was there
age.
such thing as a primitive museum? Not really.
So
The first
please take
cave
down
paintings
notes
were made on the
and
walls and
listen
ceilings of the
attentively
caves
to
they lived in.
the video.
Cave art was meant to decorate. They liked living in beautiful homes. Their paintings represented hunting scenes, like the one you can see in this picture. Isn't it
So
incredible
we're going
that
to play again the video. Play from the start. Yeah.
Smile and learn.
5 things you should know about the Paleolithic. The Paleolithic is the first period of prehistory. It's also the longest period of time in history. It begins with the appearance of human beings around 300,000 years ago in Africa. Paleolithic means old stone, and this explains the appearance of the first stone tools. During Paleolithic times, humans lived in tribes, small settlements of 20 or 30 people, dwelling huts or natural caves. They were nomads, meaning they didn't settle in the same place. They traveled from one area to another looking for a location to fish, hunt, or collect food. In other words, they were hunters and collectors. Among their favorite foods were wild berries, deer, bisons, or even mammoths. During Paleolithic times, people held rituals to worship nature and ask for food abundance. That's right, they prayed to the sun and the rain. Another interesting aspect of their culture is that they buried their dead performing funeral rituals. Wow, it sounds like the earliest evidence of spiritual beliefs. Fire was discovered in Paleolithic times. No, that's not what I meant. It seems that the lightning from a thunderstorm accidentally started the first fire. Later on, men learned to make fire in two different ways, rubbing a stick against a tree trunk or two stones together. Fire was very important because it kept the people in the tribe warm during the night or in the wintertime. Also, thanks to the discovery of fire, they could now cook their food and enjoy eating tastier things. Art in Paleolithic times began 35,000 years ago. I'm sure you'll probably be wondering, was there such thing as a primitive museum? Not really. The first cave paintings were made on the walls and ceilings of the caves they lived in. Cave art was meant to decorate. They liked living in beautiful homes. Their paintings represented hunting scenes, like the one you can see in this picture. Isn't it incredible that their art still remains to this day? To make the paints, they used soil, blood, and plants. They painted using their fingers or paintbrushes. The first stone tools were made during the Paleolithic times. These tools were key to surviving because they made hunting and fishing easier and more effective. This was great because they could get more food. To make these tools, they shaped stones using another stone. Some of the first primitive tools were knives or arrowheads. As they were progressing, they started using materials like bones or wood to make needles or even harpoons. These first men continued progressing, becoming more and more intelligent and improving their lifestyle. The practice of agriculture and cattle raising marked the end of the Paleolithic times and the beginning of Neolithic times. These are the 5 things you should know about the Paleolithic times. Did you like learning about them?
Did you like the video? We have so many more! Subscribe by clicking on the seal. And if you want to keep watching more videos, click on the boxes.
Okay, if you're able to watch the video, may you tell us the instruction again? I can clearly hear you. Okay. If you're able to watch the video, can you type yes? Because if not, we can play it again. Okay, yes. Okay, so I guess you've watched it attentively. Okay, another question. Did you get something from the video? Did you learn something from the video? Did you understand the informations presented in the video? Can you type yes? Okay, yes, you understand. I guess I choose this video because it's easy to understand and they presented only the most important informations about the Paleolithic age. So now I'm going to ask questions regarding the video and you're going to answer by typing on the chat box, and I will only consider the first 5 to answer, and then after that we will move to the next question. Okay, so be attentive to the question and type your answers right away. Okay, so I hope everybody is here. Oh wait, can you please type active if you are actively listening to the live stream, so that I will know if there will be students to answer the questions. Please type active so that we can start the first question. Okay, 1 is active, 2. Only 2 is active. 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9. So I guess there are students who are active. Okay, so we will start with the first question and make it fast to answer so that you will be in the top 5. Okay, so the first question is, what is the meaning of Paleolithic? So it was described earlier in the video. What is the other name for Paleolithic? First 5 to answer. Okay, we have from room 1, Stone Age. Another from room 1, number 34, Stone Age. Another from room 1. Oh, all room 1 are active. Old Stone from number 13. Kuanut, the Old Stone. So we have top 5 from Mind, number 26, number 34, number 13, and Puwanut, what room are you? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the 5th is number 30 from room 1. Okay, but maybe later I will change my mind and consider those answers of students since you participate. Okay, so let's have the next question. So the other name for Paleolithic is Old Stone or the Old Stone Age. Next question, number 2. How did the Paleolithic age started? Or when did it started? Question number 2. How did the Paleolithic age started? Ipuanat is from room 8, number 18. Okay, we have another answer. Answer for number 2, 300,000 years ago, from number 35 of room 4. Number 8, people use stone tools. We have Bandita, 300,000 years ago in Africa. The answer comes from number 13, Balami, but you use different account. What happened? Okay, so 300,000 years ago. Okay, so the Paleolithic age started 300,000 years ago when people from coming from the people in the America. I mean Africa. Okay, so 300,000 years ago. So top five is I, I cannot read anymore. My eyes is not good in looking at the computer. Okay, I will look back later your answers. Okay, next, let's move on to the third question we have. Where do people live during the paleolithic times? What was their way of living? Where do they settle? So again, question number 3. Where do people live during the paleolithic time? Okay, so we have answer from Songkran tribes, okay, another from Rungwan tribe. They live in tribe. Okay, all of the answers are all tribe. Aside from tribe, where do they live? So most of the answers are tribe. So they live in tribes. Aside from tribe, who can answer? The other way of settlement of the people in the Paleolithic time. Okay, so they are separated into tribes and factions, consisting of 20 to 30 people in each tribe. Okay, so we have another answer from Huwanat. People live in the cave, the natural cave, okay? Since they don't have yet the materials to create their own shelter, so they go to a natural cave or they create their own tribes, and sometimes people live in the huts where they use natural resources to create those huts. But most of them usually live in the natural cave. Okay, so that's how the people live in the past. I don't know if people nowadays still live in the cave, but I know some in our place. There are still people who choose to live in the cave because they think that it's peaceful compared to the city. Well, I guess living in the cave is cool. Okay, next let's have the fourth question. Why are they called nomads? Why are the people in the Paleolithic times called nomads? What do you mean by nomads? Why are the people in the past called nomads? So when the question is why, your answer should start with because, because they do not have fixed settlements and will find a new suitable place to live. Okay, they don't stay at the same places. So those answers comes from room 1, both of those answers. They don't have a fixed settlement and they don't stay at the same places because they are not settled in one place. They don't have specific settlement. Okay, so your answers are correct. They are considered nomads because they don't stay in one place, because they keep on searching for food. So that's why they move from one place to another. And The term for that is nomads. They travel from one area to another looking for another location to fish or to hunt, coming from number 10 of room 1. Okay, so that's correct. They move from one area to another to fish or to hunt for food. Okay, so that's why they are considered as nomads. Even if they stay in caves, they also try to move from one area to another. Next, question number 5. What are the foods they usually collect? What are the foods they get from the environment where they settle? So there are foods mentioned earlier in the video. What are those foods they collect? Okay, so they collect wild berries from room 1, number 30. Okay, wild berry, another from room 1. Berries and wildlife from room 1. Another answer, room 1 again, berries. Deer, mammoths, not mammoths, it's mammoths. With T and H, mammoths. Okay, deer and mammoths. Hunting, hunting of what? So we have berries. Okay, so your answers are correct. So they collect wild berries and they also hunt wild animals like deer, mammoths, and what you mentioned earlier. Or is that? Yes, the deer and the mammoths. Okay, so they hunt these wild animals for their food. Okay. Next question. What was the first discovery in paleolithic times? Okay, question number 6. What was the first discovery in paleolithic times? What is it that they discovered that we are still using nowadays? And we should be thankful to them because they were able to discover this important thing that we can use in our daily life, in our daily living. What is it that they discovered? Okay, so we have answer from room 1. So they discovered fire. So we use fire to cook from Mytony of room 8. Okay, so they are the first one to discover fire, and the first fire that they get is coming from the natural lightning. So they would go to the area where the light would hit and they would get the fire. But later on, they discover another way to create the fire. So what are the 2 ways to make the fire? So they have these 2 ways to make the fire. And military people or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, I think do this thing whenever you have camping because this is one of the basic things to learn when you do camping. So what are the 2 ways to make fire? So the first one is the fire comes from the natural lighting that later on they discovered to make their own fire. So what are the 2 ways to make fire? Okay, so they use wood and rock. So they would, the first one is the sticks. They would scratch together the sticks or the rock or the stones, and it would create a fire. Okay, so that's the old way to make a fire. Okay, friction creating sparks of flame, mostly flint and wood. Okay, rubbing two rocks and rubbing with wood. Okay, rubbing a stick and stone, rubbing the stick against the wood. Okay, stick and stone. So they use um, wood or stick and stone, and they rub together to make fire. And I guess other people nowadays use this one when you go to mountainside. But of course, we are in the modern days already. We have a lot of ways to create fire. But this one is, I think it's cool to learn how to make fire by just using stone and sticks. Okay, so those are the two ways to make fire, rubbing the wood or the stone. Next question, number 8. How do people in Paleolithic times express their art? Question number 8. How do people in Paleolithic times express their art? Okay, so they express their art through cave painting. And what are the materials they use to make the paint? So just type your answer. I'll just continue because I guess it's almost time already. But we're almost finished. Okay, so question number 9. So they express their art through cave painting. So what are the materials they use to make the paint? Painting in the cave wall. So what are those 3 basic materials they use to make the paint? Okay, blood, soil, and leaves. Okay, so they mix all together and they have now the paint, and they use their hands or brush to paint on the caves. Okay, so those are the 3 materials they use: the blood, soil, and the leaves. They use plants, blood, and soil mixed together. Okay. Next question. 10. What are the first primitive tools? What are the tools in the Paleolithic times? Question number 10. What are the first primitive tools? Okay, so they use stones as their tools. Animal blood, soil, and leaf. Okay, so they use stone as their tools, and they make the stone as knife or a small um, harpoons, and then later on they were able to create another way to make another tools. Okay, the stone tools, stone from a cave. Okay, so their first primitive tools is the stone. That's why they are from the Stone Age, because they use stone as their tools. So how did the people use the tools? So what was the use of the tools to the people in the Paleolithic times? Question 11. How did the people use the tools? Or what is the use of the